What's up, Taurus? This is part 2. We got the Tower card in the upright. This is just drilling down more on the overview, the general for April 2022 money. Tower is quick, drastic change here, drastic fallout. The numerals add up to the number 16, which reduces to a 7. Sevens are about perfection on the spiritual path. So you will be knocked off the hinges if something isn't truly aligned with the real deal. Spirit is constantly wanting you to lift and uplift your bottom line. So you're only as good as your worst days. You're only as good as your weakest game. And Spirit is truly wanting you to commit to, not having any fluff in your repertoire of who you are as a being. And so they will knock you down from time to time and make sure that you're not faking the funk. The Temperance card in the upright is, again, more alchemical, quantum, from the higher self perspective. Now we had it from the Star card, where you're doing it on Earth, and because you're doing it on Earth, the universe is going to do it, behind the scenes for you because you're helping yourself. The Seven of Pentacles in the reverse here at times feels like there's no growth, there's no progress, but you will receive duly compensation. It's almost as if you're on an angelic payroll, believe it or not, here, which is very dope, very dope. Anything else, Spirit? Should we look at? Let's look at career. And I do say that in quotes here because we talked about a merger between, what you're doing in your spiritual path. So your career is definitely subject to change. You're a contract for hire. That's for sure, a contractor for hire. Spirit, anything else for career? Okay, this is carving your own path, doing something that has yet to have a title. Okay, not going with the grain, going against tradition. And you're working for a higher power indeed. Anything for overall finances? Spirit, fighting. You might feel as though you're fighting at times for it, but again, you're above the grade here. If you add with the Page of Wands in the reverse, this is victory. You're going to be victorious. No matter what seems to happen, because you wouldn't be put in this position otherwise. You got another 11-11 type energy here when you add the 5 and the 6 remaining. That reduces, even though a master number doesn't get reduced, it reduces to a 2. This is being able to kind of project where you want to be in the long run and making slow, steady efforts to be able to do so. If you're still working from home, relocating, you could still have those dreams and those visions and fulfill them on the practical side of things, on the earthly realm of things, but you may have to kind of adjust the time frame. And again, think quantumly is a big kind of theme I feel for April. And in perpetuity for the rest of your life as well. Think quantumly, okay, as opposed to time and space scales. So that's for finances here, but I do see you again being victorious over whatever financial deadlines you may have. This seems to be a consistent methodology to your pattern as well. Anything else for business associates? Taking a leap of faith into a new direction, okay? Business associates, that means people that you associate with in regards to your work. You may have the tendency or a knack to want to work solo dolo. Don't be afraid to jump into that mode either, for that matter. You may want to stick working solo dolo and keep your inner circle very small, very small. The 3 cups in the upright. I feel typically the message would be, hey, jump into partnership, but if I'm going to read it how I see it, and if I'm not seeing it, then I'm not going to read that for you. I want to talk about like advancements or improvements, like research and development. Okay, you got the Empress in the upright. She bodes well for finances and resources. This may be even upgrading your software. You see her having her scepter to her ear. That reminds me of a modern day communication device, like a cellular phone or something of this nature. There's this whole kind of Tartarian movement where people are saying that we could actually come from a technologically advanced past ancient society. And I wouldn't be surprised if there were some kind of hints and whispers with that kind of scepter in the Empress's ear, kind of quite using it as some sort of telecommunication device with that kind of crown of stars upon her head here. Stars thematically more so showing up again. Anything else, Spirit? Anything else? We're talking about, since we are talking about value or money, I should say, in finances, let's speak to the essence of money and finances, which is actual kind of value. You know, money is more of the practical tool side of it, but let's speak to actual value. Because in essence, like, you know, we could have all the money in the world, but if you don't have value or worth, then what do you have for yourself and for an understanding of what's actually valuable, I should say. So for value, Ten of Cups in the reverse, this could be not having the best kind of partnerships and relationships or people to share your victories with. We do have more cup energy here, feeling as though you're not being compensated. But just because you're not being compensated, again, you're working like Luke Skywalker through those kind of newer Star Wars movies where he emerges from the cave, Freudian slip there, where, you know, we hadn't heard from him, his character, for so long. And yet he's this wise Jedi, you know, laying in the cut because he knows that, you know, he's still connected to the Force. And sure enough, he's called upon later in his life. And so don't be surprised if, you know, yes, in some regards you're in the spotlight, but in other regards you're probably a little bit like under the radar. The 3 and the 10 offset to the 7 in reverse, which speaks to a reduction, pulling in your soulmate quantumly by consistently, steadily doing the work here. But your own sense of self-value and self-worth is actually at a high premium with the Empress here, despite not being kind of lifted on a pedestal societally. You know, societally, we don't put people that are wanting to preach spirituality at the top of the totem pole. Or purposely, you know, culture and society is not your friend, as Terence McKenna famously said. That's why you have all these little demons and devils and, you know, culture vultures and people that are like, you know, disintegrating to the fabric of morality at the top of the totem pole, because, you know, we're essentially slaves to them if we're trying to be like them. But thankfully we don't have our worth, self-worth kind of emanating from, you know, what they deem, you know, valuable. Or else if you do, then you're going to be living in a nightmare. So try to learn that kind of game as well. So, you know, you don't, you know, continue to be played self-worth wise. I know it's a little bit harder to do. I'm in LA myself, so in particular, when you're in this kind of everyone's on the grind and the hustle, then the value of life only goes down in reciprocation to your own kind of where you're at quantumly, spiritually. So I behoove you, you know, put yourself at the top of the pyramid, keep yourself, know that yourself is at the top of the totem pole, regardless if no one's giving you that concrete worth here. Call the bluff, you know, trust that there are other forces at hand and at be here. Sagittarius, 8 of Wands in the upright, incoming communication actually, so I wouldn't be surprised if you gain more of a kind of healthy communicative dynamic when you're with yourself, when you're sitting in meditation. I just got done sitting in meditation after my workout shower, post-workout shower. I'm just sitting in the dark on the kind of ledge of my bathtub, and I'm just sitting there, and you're kind of just really purely connecting to something that's real, and more real than anything you could actually kind of see on your phone, because it's a first-hand experience. You know, so my advice would also be that there are a lot of, you know, pearls and gems and rubies just in the act of sitting in darkness with your eyes closed, staring at your eyelids, and the actual act and practice of not going down the rabbit hole of your thought and your imagery of mind that's hooking on your ego, trying to figure yesterday and tomorrow out, but more so just like staying present, call the bluff, follow the line of attention, keep it to the back of your eyelids and just look. And stay purely present. You'll see that, yes, gems will hit you, interesting things will hit you, but you're not doing it for that, you know, and you're not only doing it for the regenerative aspect. Those are the cherries on top, but there's also something just intrinsically valuable in that pure being, that pure connected to quantum source, which is the underlying, pervading essence and element of all of Maya, all of elusive, illusionary, you know, this realm of play that we call everyday waking life. So, you know, don't forget that element of it. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the game, you have to put all the pieces back in the box, right? So you might as well get familiar with, you know, that kind of that quantum spiritual realm, because That's where a lot of the magic lays. All right, I'm gonna leave it there, Taurus. Before we get too down the rabbit hole, as always, feel free to reach out for one-on-one reading, love and light to you. Overall, I just get this sense of you kind of flipping the script for April 22 in regards to money. A little bit more of like an understanding of the ebbs and flows of how things kind of spiritually and quantumly fall into line. A lot of that's going to be with your tuning fork, your tuning device, which is your being, your body. And so when you are sitting in meditation, you're just allowing that much more processing space to be most efficient, kind of in flow, in flux with the kind of spiritual pragmatism that occurs in the flow of your everyday life. So if you could really kind of, ruminate on that, and I think you do get the kind of the value there. It's actually quite yummy, and if you could learn to kind of go back to that well continuously, a la that star card in the upright, then you're just going to kind of be more in tune with yourself, and thus more efficient and see the results. But again, at the level that you're playing at, or that I hope that you're striving for within, you've already encountered some sort of holy union with that Four of Wands in the upright, a card and energy of union, more surface level traditionally marriage, but in these contexts of esotericisms and metaphysics, a union of action and what it is that you're doing in this world and in this lifetime as well. And finally, I would want to say that going in with the Fool card to the Five of Pentacles in reverse might seem counterintuitive, because the Fool card is the spirit of jumping into the new, but it's only when you're kind of refreshed after having rejuvenated by going in, is how I read the Five of Pentacles in reverse, that you're able to open yourself up to seeing something new. You're able to go further down in this level of the game we call life, so as to take yourself to a point of newness. Okay, so it's by going in that you actually open your world outwardly, more prevalently, which may seem counterintuitive, but if you really kind of meditate upon that, you'll see that it actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, it reminds me of how Steph Curry, the famous three-point record-holding basketball player, champion NBA, he famously does isolation tanks. So it's like in the stadium, the crowd, all the kind of, huzzah and all the lights and the spotlight being on him, and he does isolation chamber tanks, which is sitting in a salt bath. So it's a sensory deprivation experience. So you got the yin and the yang. You have to recoup and regenerate from that kind of just high level of attention and awareness and focus. So it will need a counteractive kind of resuscitation and rejuvenation action. So it's interesting when you have those two dynamics at play there. I could go on and on, but I'm going to leave it there. On to Gemini, April money. I'll let you boy. Peace.